Hello, Sally Lawrence here, founder of the Advantage Real Estate Group, talking with you today about another portion of the California Residential Purchase Agreement. Today we'll be speaking about the possible representation of more than one buyer or seller, disclosure and consent form that will show up both in most listing agreements and as well in most purchase offers. Let's start off with a couple of definitions. Let's start with the broker. Most people think of the broker as the company for which a real estate agent works. Technically, the broker is an individual person, but may also be a corporation, a partnership, etc. It's important to understand that a broker and their individual agents may be representing more than one buyer or seller. And this can occur in a couple of different ways. First of all, a broker may be representing multiple buyers looking at many different properties, or they could also be representing multiple sellers where they have listings to sell many different properties. They can also be working in a dual agency capacity. The seller may be represented by the broker, but they also agree that the broker may represent prospective buyers of that seller's property as well, and then consent to the broker or their agent acting as a dual agent for both seller and buyer in that transaction. So, when we're involved in a dual agency situation, it's important to notice that both parties agree that the broker can, without the prior written consent of the buyer, not disclose to the seller that the buyer may pay a price greater than the offered price. And, on the other side, without having the consent of the seller, can't disclose to the buyer that the seller may sell the property for a price less than the listed price. And, besides that, someone representing both the buyer and the seller is also obligated to disclose any known facts that materially affect the value of the property. Here's one of the most important things that's a part of this document, which are that offers are not necessarily confidential. Now, this is an area in which many agents make the mistake as well. The buyer should understand that the seller or the listing agent may disclose the existence, the terms, or conditions of the buyer's offer unless all of the parties and their agent have signed a written confidentiality agreement. Whether or not the information is actually disclosed is, in many cases, up to the sellers and their agent to discuss whether or not they want to use that as a method of marketing their property. Buyer and seller understand that the broker may represent more than one buyer or more than one seller, and even both the buyer and seller on the same transaction, and consent to such relationships. So there you have it. This is the disclosure and consent form for the possible representation of more than one buyer or seller. If you have any more questions about this form, make sure you read it in its entirety and then speak to your agent or get legal counsel. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.